Uh, but yeah, one of the things that I found curious first off, which I didn't actually look into, so I could, and I'm sure there's a reason for it. But where did these 10,000, 50,000 numbers come from?
10,050. I mean, don't quote me on this, but I believe that 50,000 was proposed by other people, and he's just rejecting it flat out because I think he feels like it's too much to pass by Congress.
Well, yeah, I mean, I that part I just like, where did the actual numbers come from? So like, if you see this in this article, it's saying that 60 roughly 33% of people have 10,000 or less in debt. All right, cool. So now we're just deciding to wipe a third of college debt. Is that where the number came from? I guess. I mean, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
And the 50,000. I mean, the 50,000 just seems like a little extra. But I mean, why can't there be like some kind of intermediate number, like 20,000, or or maybe like a sliding scale or something of that nature? Like a percentage of your annual salary is your relief. I just don't get how they come up with these numbers.
I do agree, though. If they did a percentage, it would be so much more efficient, especially because you have these people. You have these people who have $50,000, and then some that have $5,000, but then there's a big discrepancy as to how much they're making.
Yeah, and I get a lot of the arguments. Some of the arguments I really don't understand. I think some certain groups of people take it a little too personally and a little too far. In my opinion, if you gave me $5,000 of relief, I'm still happy. But it's like that notion of the insatiable need to, I want more. All right, if the government's going to hand you 10 grand, or essentially handing you 10 grand over the course of whatever period of time, because obviously you don't pay 10 grand a month or a year or whatever, take it. Stop complaining.
Yeah.
I understand some of the arguments. Oh, well, I bust my ass to pay off my student loans already. Are you going to reimburse me? Well, yeah. Tough luck. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a survival of the fittest thing, but some of these other arguments, what about reparations because my great grandmother was a slave? Like that, I do not understand whatsoever. I don't even know where these people are coming from with that. I sent that to you the other day. Somebody actually said that as an argument to this whole thing. Relax. Taking a little
far. That the whole topic of reparations, that's very to some is very sensitive. But I don't quite understand how you can put it to begin with. I don't understand how you can quantify some sort of repair value, I guess, into whatever happened in the past. And another thing, the majority, and I could be speaking out of my my rear. The majority of the people speaking didn't even live through those times. I'm not sure what the purpose is. Is it either to monetize on something that happened, and that because of the times they weren't able to, and now because everyone's more aware of things, or I guess more vocal about things, and also receptive, now you're able to monetize or do something about things. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and people that are of that mentality that they deserve reparations should be careful what they wish for, because Native Americans got reparations and it wasn't necessarily all beneficial. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a give and a take, and I don't know.
It's always to somebody else's expense or benefit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see what happens with the student loan debt. It'd be very interesting, but I'm not sure if this is going to be a good thing, because in particular, to completely take away student loan debt, especially to those who have worked very hard to pay it off, it's very debatable. It's controversial. I mean,
and from what I was understanding, it has the potential to create inflation. No. because
In the
when I
sense of
was
what, printing money or?
well, they're not well. So what I was reading is that they're not going to print the money, right? So I have this other article. Let me send it to you. Not necessarily printing money; they're digitizing the funds.
There we go. Got it.
Biggest, so it's IOUs, private investors, foreign entities, their governments that they're getting the money from, but the Treasury Department issues a bond or a note, blah blah blah. The biggest buyer of those IOUs right now is an entity called the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve apparently is not actually printing the money; they're typing a number into a computer like magic. This digital currency is borrowed by the Treasury Department, and economists are apparently worried that this is just going to create inflation because there's theoretically more money in circulation, but I get the idea of this whole relief thing too. It's like if I don't have to spend $1,000 a month or whatever it is, like let's say right now I spend $1,000 a month, regardless of the forbearance or the deferment right now. If I'm spending $1,000 a month on student loans and now all of a sudden I don't have to spend that, or I have to spend 25% of that, so I'm just spending $250 on student loans and I have $750 freed up. The majority of people are probably, they're going to go out and buy a whole bunch of crap. And that's, I think, part of the point, right? Like, because.
So it in a way, they're the way I think that the way that they're trying to promote this to get it passed is that it'll inject, so to speak, more money into the markets, the economy. That's a big push. But the problem is that you've seen since the pandemic thing happened and everything shut down, and this whole I guess it's debatable if we had a recession or not, or this K-shaped recovery thing. With the stimulus, they tried to do the same thing, is quote unquote inject money into the economy because everything shut down, et cetera, et cetera. But the problem is that people were not spending. You can track the money, and I'll pull up the website in a bit. You can track the money where it's going, and it's just people saving. It's not being spent. So
that sounds like the smart thing to do. If you tell me all of a sudden, which is what I'm doing now, right? So I'm spending $700 less a month because I don't have to pay certain loans right now because they got deferred till September again. They got deferred again till September. Now, I could use that money to pay off the principal, but also we have this topic of, you might get a certain portion of your student loans just wiped. I'm not going to pay anything. I'm saving the money, but I feel like a lot of people instinctually want to spend, which you saying what you just said is interesting to me because there's so many things that are just sold out. Like you can't get bikes. I was looking at 3D printers and 3D printer filament today. It's all sold out. Like I feel like people are spending money, but services and other commodities that aren't related to, I guess, at home type of things are just lost. I don't know. It's maybe spending overall has gone down, but it's weird to me how many things are sold out. Like you still cannot go to the store and get weights, like simple stuff like that.
Interesting. So
it's really strange.
So I guess it's I don't know. It's very interesting.
And again, I'm not debating with you. It does and doesn't make. I mean, it makes sense in total, actually, to me. I mean, people are stuck at home. They're gonna, for some reason, not have already anything to do, so they need to go out and order more crap so that they can occupy their time at home. But since they're not leaving, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, speaking of that, today, when I went to pick up this car, truck, whatever, the lady I got it from, she's a real estate agent, and I think her husband is a contractor. Just out of curiosity, she's filling out the paperwork. I'm like, what do you think of the markets? And she says it's really insane. Everything's going up. I don't understand where the money's coming from. I don't either.
Mm-hmm.
But she's saying that all the prices of materials have almost doubled, And it's kind of interesting when she said that because, my wife and I were looking to redo our roof, for example, and we got a quote back in September. And we're kind of busy with other things, whatever, but maybe 2 or 3 months passed by, and then we touched base with the guy, the roofer, and he said, prices are really up, going a lot higher, but I'll honor it, thank goodness for that, because then we start hearing from other people that have similar sized houses, it almost doubled. Our jaws just dropped. My wife and I were also looking for rentals, rental properties. Just out of curiosity, we're looking at houses and all that. And this other realtor, he was saying the same exact thing. He doesn't understand where the money's coming from. It's not like, and it's not like it makes sense to buy right now.
Yeah.
Because yes, the market's high and projections seem to be going higher. It's a little scary to think about, but what's going to happen once the forbearance ends? Because right now you have rental forbearance and you have mortgage forbearance, so people can basically push back until I think September. It used to be March, but I think they passed it so that it goes as far back as September. So what happens if they don't renew it? You have people who are not paying rent, who are not paying their landlords. So it could be either commercial, it could be residential. Now, because they're not doing that, they're not able to pay their mortgage. Okay, so forbearance and mortgage, but not everybody can get a forbearance and mortgage.
Yeah.
Especially, I believe those who are in Fannie Mae cannot get it, or it's at least difficult to do so because they're not held to the same regulations as other backed mortgages.
Okay.
So it's almost like you're forced to pay everything that you have missed. So think about this.
Oh yeah, it's just compiling.
It's insane, and people are spending on top of that. So yes,
go
ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was gonna say it almost seems like a similar, like the housing, the the Big Short kind of thing. Like too many. Obviously, it's different circumstances, but it seems like people are just so eager right now to act spontaneously, and it's all going to come down on them soon.
Yeah, because so there's a large amount of people who have, for example, Fannie Mae. So you have to pay interest on top of that, and it's all accrued basically. So now everything's just getting pushed back until September. Let's say, worst case, nobody's paying till September. So you have all this influx of people of money just on the negative, just right on the books of mortgages, and then people who are renting, who are also being held to the same thing. They have to pay back that money. It's not like, oh, I can't pay right now, and then I'll just start paying normally afterwards. And no, you have to pay back everything that you haven't paid. But is that really going to happen? Are people really saving up for that?
Yeah, probably not. It's kind of scary.
What's coming?
I mean, the good thing with like the student loan stuff is that it doesn't change. It's not like you're not stockpiling more debt. You're just holding the debt off. The interest isn't going to change. Your payments aren't going to change. It's potentially going to get better. I mean, that's another thing I'm curious too. Is like I don't own a house, so I don't have to worry about those things. I've been paying rent this whole time, but I'm curious what the timeline is for the student loan thing because that'd be huge. But yeah, I could see. I don't know. I could see that being a huge problem for people. I just don't understand what the mentality is.
Yeah, I'm not sure how this is going to play out, but that should be very interesting. It's almost like they have to constantly back it up, and they're going to manipulate it in some way so that it stays afloat.
Yeah, maybe they think they're investing somehow. I don't know.
I'm not sure. So let's see. I just pulled this up from Student Aid. So March 20th. Okay. I'm just reading this for the first time. Sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
September 30th.
so on January 20th, there we go. So they extended Fed student loans until September 30th.
Yep.
So I think that's kind of in line with what we're talking about with mortgages. So on this stimulus, though, while I'm trying to find this,
Mhm.
so I think the latest is that they are looking to push the $1,400. So since we already got the 600, or some of us did,
Mhm.
they're just trying to basically put the rest of it of the 2,000 that Biden promised.
Yeah.
So $1,400, I think you have to make under 75,000 a year. Now the quote unquote loophole is that if you made more than 75,000 a year in 2020, so that means that you made more than you made. Okay, so if you made less than 75,000 a year in
Mhm.
2019, that means that you filed that in 2020, and for the stimulus of last year, they used that those filings. So
Yeah.
if you got stimulus last year and you made more than 75,000 or more money in 2020, you're better off not filing your taxes for 2020 yet, and until they release the stimulus, because they're going to go based on the latest that's filed.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I this is my personal opinion, it's kind of why they're pushing it as much as they can, because they were kind of ready to do it in January. That's just my side comment on that.
Yeah, we'll see what they. I mean, I hope they do. I just, again, I know people are anxious for this, but really, I mean, how much is that going to help? For one, if you're fully employed, that's just like a benefit. It's like, all right, cool. I'll just take this. I mean, when I got the last one, when I got the 1,200, you know, you and I we weren't out of work, so it was like, all right, cool. I just put that into an investment. You know, I didn't get the 600 because I didn't file taxes for last year, but I actually looked into it, and there's a way that you can still get it. So I have to look into this more because I'm going to file for this year for 2020 and 2019 coming up.
Yeah.
And the IRS should give me the 600. Well, actually, I might not get the full 600 because if it was based on 75, I think I made a little bit more. And also, is that like total income, or is that just how does that work? Because like if you're getting income from investments, and is the total amount that you file on your tax forms, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I have to look more into this. So, this is interesting. I'm just writing down topics now. All this stuff we're going to cover in later videos. We just don't, it's kind of a starting point. So that's good. So we're gonna try to do more stimulus updates.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of the hottest topics right now, and I'm curious just to see in general how this whole pandemic thing. It just feels like old news to me, honestly.
Yeah,
it's just been. It's crazy how it's already been like what? It's almost a year to date that I got sick. It's about another month, and it'll be when I got sick, which is crazy because it started technically I guess it started in like November, but it really started to hit home here.
If it's not too personal, what was your experience with COVID itself?
It was pretty horrible. I mean, being 34, I would have thought that my immune system would have handled it a lot better, and I unfortunately I know a couple of people that I've worked with in the past, and a bunch of friends that I have who's well, the people that I worked with. One guy that I used to work with at a restaurant, he passed away, and then a few of my friends, either one of their family members passed away. But for me, I didn't really think much of it at first. I've never even gotten the flu, so I was like, yeah, I'll be all right. I'm pretty healthy. I don't really get sick. I get a cold maybe once every 4 or 5 years. So when I got it, I was at work, and I'm sitting in a room, luckily by myself. I mean, it started, if I'm really being honest, it started because I was noticing like my lower back was kind of stiff, and I was sitting in my chair, and it was like, my back kind of hurts. I didn't think anything of it though. I mean, I wasn't expecting that to be an indicator of COVID. Then I go about my work day, and ever since college, ever since like 2007, I think I get pleurisy, and basically any kind of bacteria that gets into my lungs, the lining of my lungs swells up, and it's extremely painful. But it's usually intermittent. It happens every few years, maybe, or whenever. It's not like scheduled. But it kind of, if I could be poetic here, pleurisy for me feels like there's a porcupine in my lungs that's very angry, and it sticks its thistles out and stabs me all about the lungs. It's a very sharp, kind of uncomfortable pain. Breathing or not doesn't matter, but breathing in heavy, definitely it hurts more. But typically it would last like 20 minutes for me, and then it would go away. When I was at work this day, started feeling that, and I was like, oh man, I've had this feeling before. I know what this is. Holy crap, this is such a bad coincidence. But it didn't go away. I was in a small room by myself, luckily, hunched over, like in agonizing pain. And because of the coincidence of it, I was like, I can't be sure that this isn't COVID. I was like, I got to get out of here. So I definitely hastily walked to my desk, grabbed my stuff, went and talked to my boss, who happened to be in a room with the VP of our company. And I kept my distance. I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, I got to go home. I'm having really bad chest pains, and I'll let you know what happens. And I drove home. Like barely. I had to stop to get gas because I didn't know once I got home, what was going to happen. I didn't want to have an empty tank. So I'm in the gas station. I'm like on the floor. It was really bad. Like it just felt like thick needles stabbing me in the lungs. And I finally got the gas. I was like, I'd take a breath, and no pun intended, but I'm trying to gather myself so I can make it the next like 4 or 5 miles home. I get home, and my friend was there. Well, my female friend was there with me, and she was like, oh my God. She was freaking out. So she called the hotline so that we could get tested. And since she had been staying with me, she figured she had to get tested too. Yeah. So we got tested a few days later. But that night, I was in tears. I was like bawling. I was freaking out. It didn't go away. The whole freaking night, I was just in this agonizing pain, hunched over. And then on top of that, I think I get RLS sometimes. So my opinion, based on my experience, is that COVID just preys on any kind of health condition that you have, whatever it is, because I get this RLS where like I can't stop. I have to move my legs, otherwise there's a shooting nerve pain throughout my legs, and it's agonizing. So
just amplifies everything.
Yeah, it just flared up. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I couldn't lay on the floor. If I lay on the floor in the fetal position, that's the only thing that would help the pain in my lungs. And that's typical. I learned that a long time ago. So I was doing that, and then I couldn't because I needed to move my legs. And if I didn't move my legs, like it was almost worse pain. So I'm walking around, laying on the floor, walking around, laying on the floor. And this was all night. Finally, it subsided a little, and I was able to go to sleep. And then I woke up in the middle of the night again, agonizing pain. And then the next day, I woke up and I felt okay, but then it came back. So for like the first 3 days that I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I have COVID. It was just terrible. I got tested, and obviously, I tested positive. They always say stay positive. I don't think that was a good time to be positive. So the next, I had it for, well, according to the tests, I had it for nearly 4.5 weeks. Again, now, that was at the beginning when they didn't really know anything about it. So now they're saying, oh, you could test positive for up to 3 months, or it could be in your system for up to 3 months, but you're not really contagious. Now they're letting people go back to work 10 days after a positive test, which blows my mind because I was home for 6 weeks, and I was all scared. Not only was I sick, I was anxious about, oh crap, I'm going to lose my job, or this is going to happen, or that's going to happen. There was a lot of anxiety and stress behind it. But for the 2.5 weeks that I did have symptoms, once I got past those initial 3 days of just like terrible pains, and it's just like it's just waves of uncomfortability. And then I lost my taste. I didn't really have a fever. I guess I had a fever because like some nights I would just wake up freezing but sweating like I had to. Luckily I have a waterproof cover on my mattress, but I was just sweating so bad that I would have to change the sheets. Like it was disgusting. But I'd be freezing, and I don't know if it was that or stress or what. It's just probably the combination of everything. But the waves of fatigue would come over me, and like I had headaches, and I wasn't like sneezing or anything. I didn't have a sore throat or any of those kind of other conditions, but I didn't have blue lips or any of that weird mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
But
what do you feel like it helped you through it?
Honestly, I think home was good, and even though I was working from home, it was a lot more relaxing. And the big thing that I think really helped me is that I got sick of being home, so I hike, and it was really tough at first because my lungs were like, "Wow, what are you doing to me? You're exhausting me. You're exhausting." And I was like, "No, I'm just gonna walk through it." And I hiked up this huge mountain, not a huge mountain, but I hiked up a pretty big mountain. Just hiked and hiked and hiked. I got fresh air, felt great. Being cooped up, you're basically incubating yourself. If you're sick and you're coughing and you're whatever, you're dispersing all those germs into the air. You're just basically living in it. And I needed to get out.
Yeah,
I
keep
wasn't
your body
trying to,
moving.
Yeah, exactly. I've always been of that mindset too. Even if I have a cold, I go outside and I try to run or something or do something, because I don't believe in that whole, just rest. I mean, your body doesn't do nearly as much. You need to kind of push yourself, but that's just me. It's not necessarily for everyone. So the no tasting and no smelling thing was a huge disruption for me. I just didn't want to eat anything. It's a combination of that and my lack of appetite. But when I can't taste food, I just didn't have any desire to eat. I lost 20 pounds. I mean, but like I said, it was waves. The no tasting and smelling thing lasted for maybe a week. But the fatigue, I would wake up one morning, feel great. About 2 or 3 I was in, having a siesta, my body would just shut down, and I needed to go to sleep. And it was like that, like I said, for a couple of weeks. And then I felt great. I felt like superhuman once it was over. I went to go get tested, still positive.
How long ago? How far from your first test? I guess since you felt better, how far until you got tested again did it happen?
Well, from the first test to the second test, which were both positive, it was about 3 weeks. And then I was still positive, even though I felt great. So I was like, all right, whatever, I'll wait another week. And then I got tested again. And then a week later, I went back to work. So it was actually, I think 10 days later after that, I went back to work. But it's crazy to me because according to what the state health department is saying now, quote unquote, because they have this whole trace squad. Like they just apparently call you all the time and ask you what you're doing every day, which they didn't do for me, which is fine because I don't feel like talking to anybody. But apparently now you test positive. Let's say if I test positive today and I go back to work 10 days from now, if I would have gone back to work 10 days after my first test, I don't even think I would have had the capacity to go back to work. But that's how bad it was. So I don't really understand where they came to that conclusion. But I mean, I guess it's good, maybe because they realize that the workforce is just falling apart. I don't know.
That's interesting though. Like, there's this like divide between people either understanding it or not understanding it, but at least believing that this is real. And then there's the other side to it that it's a whole hoax thing and some kind of conspiracy thing or what have you. So it's interesting to hear from other people that went through it.
Well, I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to lie. Like I was one of those people that was like, yeah, whatever, this is a bunch of BS, and then showed me. I had people making fun of me afterwards, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll take the joke. But really, if I would have died, it wouldn't have been funny.
Oh,
I mean,
jeez. Well, I'm
you
glad.
know, my
I'm glad you got better.
yeah, you know, um, but yeah, like my aunt got it, and she's got to be I don't know something like 67, and she didn't get even near, and she has bad health problems. She's in a nursing home, or something. I think she's in a nursing home, and she didn't even get nearly as bad of symptoms as I got. I haven't met a single person that's alive that had symptoms as bad as I did, which is weird. I mean, it's good. Trust me. Like, I'm not trying to play martyr here, but I made it through, and I feel like because I was younger, I could handle it. It sucked, but you know, a lot of the people that I talk to at work that are in their 50s and such that got it, you know, they were like, "Yeah, you definitely had it worse than me," and I'm like, "Good, I'm glad." Because if I was 60 and I had the same symptoms that I had, I probably would have died.
Jeez.
I mean, I was holding on. I was enjoying my time at home, but it the first 3 days were extremely brutal. After that, it just felt like it was there. It was kind of stagnant, and I was feeling like the of it. But I haven't taken an antibody test yet, but I am pretty sure I'm on the higher end scale of the antibodies, which I probably should do because maybe I should donate some plasma and try to help some people out. I don't know if I want my DNA in other people.
Well, that'd be a nice gesture. There's definitely
Yeah.
that need out there. But do you have any thoughts on the vaccine? Not to get too controversial, I guess.
Well, I mean, my thoughts are definitely biased and skewed because I already had it. I think it's a risk. I mean, there's certain, so like my grandmother wants to or did. I don't know. I have to reach out to her and find out. But she was like, "Oh, I'm getting the vaccine, no doubt about it." She's like, "If I get that, I'm gonna die." Blah blah. I was like, "All right, you know, fine." You know, me personally, I'm nervous about younger people because there were no real. There's not even if it was not rushed for approval, there's still no way to there's no time trials, you know, there's no real way to understand the long-term effects. Now if you're 70 something and there's, you know, you grow a third arm in 10 years, I mean, actually that'd be kind of cool. But really, if there was bad long-term effects, most of the older people that are getting the vaccine, they probably realistically are not going to get, they're not going to fall within that side effect category. And even if they do, I'm sure they've got bigger fish to fry. But if you're in your 20s and you get the vaccine, and 10 years down the road, you know, the FDA is like, "Oh, wow, you know, we are starting to see all these bad side effects." Well, it's too late, you know. So, and also, I don't, you know, this vaccine is great and everything, but what is it going to do for these other strands that are coming out? Or, you know, I don't even know if there's so much that's not known still, and I feel like they're acting like they know things, like by having this, oh, 10 days after you can go back to, you know, social civilized life, blah blah blah. But you know, I'm immune. I know I'm immune to the first strain because I've been around people that were blatantly sick with it, like multiple people at once. And yeah, it didn't really phase me, and I probably should have been more cautious. But it's also like, you know, you got 4 or 5 people sitting in the house watching TV or something like that. Like, I'm not going to wear a mask. It's me. You know, I already had it. I had it really bad, and I didn't get sick. I didn't get anything from it. You know, I didn't get anything from hanging out with these people. These people made it through just fine, and you know, they're now they have some level of immunity supposedly. But am I immune to these new strains? I don't know.
Do you,
There's a
do you feel
just go
like
ahead.
there's any kind of fear or concern about getting it a second time? Because there has been reports of people getting it for the second time. The original
Yeah, and
strain.
I heard that too. But what I also heard about that is that those people were typically asymptomatic the first run go around. So and again, I haven't taken the antibody test, but what I've heard from people that have is that they actually give you a scale of antibodies. So it's not like, "Oh yeah, you have antibodies." It's like, "Yeah, you have antibodies. This is how much you have."
Yeah.
So a lot of these people that are asymptomatic and that I was quarantined with, that was also tested positive. I mean, she didn't really have a lot of symptoms. You know, she kind of felt a little weak and everything, but she definitely did not have the the magnitude of illness that I had, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, she lost her taste and stuff, but it wasn't really from what obviously we were together for 4 weeks. Like, we talked back and forth all the time, describing the feelings that we were having, and she didn't have nearly the symptoms that I had, which again am grateful for, but she probably also doesn't have the level of antibodies that I have, based on what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So these people that are asymptomatic, it doesn't surprise me. It's like the virus came by like a small gust of wind for them. For me, it was like a tornado. For those people that were asymptomatic, I think, if I'm not 100% sure, but it was a very small handful of people that may have tested or gotten it, quote unquote, a second time. But I'm also curious to see, like, were their symptoms worse the second time? Did they actually have symptoms?
They do.
First time?
They do report that the second time around is the hardest. If they do get a second time, but like you said, maybe the first time, maybe the first time that they got it, they didn't build enough of an immune response to it.
Yeah. But like, you can get the flu multiple times.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, okay. Every year is a different strain, supposedly. Whatever. I don't know, but it sounds counterintuitive though, because you would think, right? Like, I used to get colds more often when I was younger, and guess what I didn't do? Take medicine. I never took medicine because, one, I don't really believe in putting weird foreign chemicals into my body, although I'm sure we all do it because we're not 100% sure what everything comes from. But, if you get sick once, you deal with it, you build up antibodies, and you get sick the second time, it theoretically shouldn't be as bad. But based on what you're saying, I don't know. This COVID thing just kind of, in a crude and philosophical way, seems like population control. It seems like it seems like the world is kind of, fighting back a little bit, and that sounds kind of harsh, I know, because, like I said, I know people that have died from it, and it's terrible. But I don't understand how these strains are mutating so quickly. Like, now we have this South Africa strain, we have this UK strain, next it's going to be an Australia strain or something like that,
When there's a vaccine out there, that tends to kind of push a mutation much quicker.
Yeah. So the virus is rebelling, basically.
Yeah. So in this channel, we're going to try to stick to facts. We'll show any kind of articles or there's like science journals and things like that. We'll also give our opinion, and we'll state that we all have our opinion. And anyone's welcome to comment on anything below and just let us know your thoughts. But what's really hard since last year, as you know, my father passed away from COVID as well. That was really quick. It took 2 weeks. It was pretty crazy, and he wasn't in bad health, to say. But ever since last year, I feel like it's the hardest thing, at least for me, and you can tell me your opinion as well. At least for me, the hardest thing about this whole thing that has happened is that there's a lot of flip-flopping, and I can understand why people kind of follow these conspiracy theories, or they just have this huge mistrust for anyone that comes out and tells you information that, whether or not it's backed through science, they're officials. So I just find it hard myself. So I've been trying to find as much data as I can, and even that's been hard. For example, the Pfizer vaccine, that took me a while just to find the actual data of the studies for phase 3, and in that, I found that I think it was 79% of the people that were tested were women, which I thought was interesting, because from the other studies that I was looking through, and maybe I'll try to find these, and next time we'll bring them up just to for record keeping, I guess. From the other studies I went through, I could see that the majority of the people that were affected severely were males with A positive blood type, I think. And there wasn't that much correlation between age, so that wasn't a factor. But I just thought it was interesting that most of these studies were skewed as far as participants to give them the best possibility of passing through, I guess, for lack of better wording. But I just thought that was interesting. So that's my hesitation to what's going on right now. But it really doesn't help that, there's a lot of flip-flopping back and forth. Like from the very beginning, they were saying don't wear a mask and then wear a mask. Now they're saying wear 2 masks. Like, what does that do?
I'm
breathing.
Yeah, right. I don't know. As long as they don't force hazmat suits on everyone. But I'm reading now that apparently there's a Brazilian variant too.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. Just I hope not a lot of people are going to be affected by this. It seems like it's going to be sticking around for a while, so we're just going to have to adapt to it. Okay, so back to this stimulus thing. So I found some information here. So yeah, so you have to make under $75,000 per head. Doesn't necessarily tell you if it's a gross income or after. I'm assuming it has to do with your gross income, which I think is pre-tax. So your overall, whatever you made, if it's over 75, then it goes down a certain amount for a certain amount over. Oh, right here. There you go. So you reduce $5 for every $100 over 75. Adjusted gross income. So yeah, it's a gross income. And married people, if you file jointly, 150. That makes sense. 75 each. And I think you get something for children. So dependent. Oh yeah, $600 per child. As long as you're under 17.
Why 17? That's so weird. Why not 18?
I'm not sure.
It's kind of strange.
Oh, I wonder if it has something to do with job, like being able to work.
You could technically work at any age.
And you can technically work under, like, pay taxes, I think, since you're 14. I think you have to get a permit, though. But yeah. So I think I used to work at a library. I used to get paid. I had to get, like, these, like, blue and green card things for...
Green card?
No, not that. No, it was like a blue. I think I still have it. It's just a card. I think it has to be signed by your the board of ed or something, and your parents as well. I think it's just to say that you can work. Like, you're not. Like, I'm assuming that you're not like falling behind in school or things like that. I'm not sure, but yeah, you have to go through some kind of permit. So the good thing is that if you had your stimulus given to you through direct deposit, it should come probably, I'm assuming, the beginning by like mid to the end of March. Otherwise, you're probably expecting about April. So if you're holding off on filing your taxes and you don't have direct deposit, you might want to file for an extension if it applies to you.
Yeah,
it'd be a smarter thing to do. I don't think you have to pay any fees for filing an extension. You can probably do it on the IRS website. So anyway, I think we're gonna have to cut the COVID thing to a separate video.
Yeah, I got a little sidetracked there. It's all good.
No problem. So what else did you send me? Yeah, this Robinhood, Reddit, Citadel. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I didn't quite watch this. I should probably watch it. The hearing. I heard there was some news floating around that they were getting grilled. GameStop, not GameStop. I'm sorry, Robinhood, and Robinhood's been taking a lot of heat lately. Well, it's been taking a lot of heat since they started. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking to move away from Robinhood because I use Robinhood. So I mean, when I open the app right now, like if I open the Robinhood on my web browser, like they're only showing me news about this right now because obviously he's trying to defend himself and he's about our age. Good for him. I mean, he's clearly doing really well, but I don't understand like what gives you the right to tell people that they just can't invest
so
anymore
it,
in this.
and I think we should make a video just on this because it's a very very involved thing that happens. It has something to do with being able to back money or something. I don't quite understand it myself. I have to look more into
Yeah,
it.
I could send you this interview. I mean, we could talk about this another time. Um, but basically, uh, basically, Robinhood as a company was going to end up losing money, so they cut their losses. They cut customers' losses, or customers' gains, I should say. So it was all to the benefit of Robinhood. So they're basically like whatever transactional costs that they have to incur. And don't quote me on this because I'm not an expert in this topic, but from the little bit of the video I watched, which I also feel like might be rigged, it just doesn't make sense. If you're going to do a Q&A with customers, and I'm sure Robinhood has millions and millions of customers, how do you just pick two women that clearly know each other in the same room? And if you look at the video, it almost appears like they're in the same room as Tenev or Vlad. Let me send this to you though, and you can watch it. We'll talk another time.
It's funny. So
It's like, yeah, come to my store and we're having a deal, but you can only get one. You can only buy one clearance item, because it just didn't. It really didn't make any sense. It seemed extremely selfish on the part of Robinhood, and that's not the only reason I'm moving away from Robinhood. I just realized that their platform is not really quite um, quite as in depth as as I'm learning more about trading, and I'll let everyone know who's watching that I'm very, very amateur and just started trading a couple of years ago, but just kind of for fun. And I would love to learn more, and I'm trying to learn more. And as I'm learning more, I'm definitely straying away from this very simplistic platform.
so Robinhood is more. I mean, they've been catching heat because they sell their data to a second party kind of thing, a third party. Sorry. So people could technically trade against your trade,
Mm-hmm.
but that's how they make their money and able to provide free trades. Uh,
Yeah.
but the whole platform itself, never mind that, the whole platform itself is geared towards retailers. So yeah, you might want to move to
So
something more professional.
so is Webull, and I moved to Webull. Well, I didn't. Excuse me, I didn't move to Webull. I opened a Webull account, but you see, the the depth of Webull is so much more advanced than Robinhood. And again, speaking to you, obviously, I know you're much more proficient in the markets and your charts and the things that you do with your charts and your algorithms and trend lines and et cetera. But Robinhood, I mean, you can't really do anything. I'm lucky that I can even do options on Robinhood, but I bought some crypto on Robinhood, which Webull does not allow yet because apparently for some reason New York is not. They won't allow you to purchase crypto if you live in New York, which is fine because I still have my Robinhood. But I mean, all I could do is look at the charts. I can't even. The data is so lagging too.
So,
It's
the two things on what you just said. So, rule of thumb, and this is so anyone, if your exchange, whichever it may be, uh, kind of shuts down, lags, or something in the middle of a trading hours, get away from that. It's not reliable, and it's just showing you their capacity and who they're gearing themselves to. Um, they're catering to retailers, and you're going to lose your money. You can't even get out of your trade. It just doesn't make
yeah.
sense to be there. And the other thing with crypto that you mentioned, Robinhood, you can't take out your crypto from that platform. You can't take it out as you would with Coinbase, Gemini, etc.
Mm-hmm.
You have to sell it, and thus paying capital gains on that to be able to rebuy through cash in a different exchange. You can't take out, you
Yeah.
can't withdraw your crypto. And I don't know how, for an exchange to have crypto trading capabilities, you should be able to have it backed. There's a limited amount of crypto, and we'll get to that eventually. But
Right.
I don't know if that's whatever they're selling. Is it true, or is it just like a note, or
I think it's a note. That's what I've been hearing, is that you're not really buying crypto. You're just kind of, it's like play money. You don't actually own it. You're just buying
That's crazy.
the possibility to make money off of it.
That's crazy.
Which is fine. I mean, I'm not heavily invested in crypto. I'm just playing around. But sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No problem. So the article is something from Investopedia. This is the. No, I got a chance to gather my thoughts. So this is the Robinhood for GME, right? So the GameStop debacle thing.
Yeah.
So it ended up happening, and we have to find information on this just to get our facts straight and on record, I guess. So their stock isn't available immediately to withdraw from your account once your trade is completed. So it takes like 2 days. It used to take a week. And it used to be like something, it used to take as long as it would take for you to physically exchange a stock certificate between each broker. And that's why it would take long. But now with so much volume, it's kind of hard to do this in a fast pace and certified things and all that, which will lead me to talk about crypto a little bit. So the DTCC, you ever heard of them? It's a clearinghouse. I think it stands for the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. It's just a clearing and a settlement service.
Okay.
And they're responsible for transferring the ownership of your stock from one broker to the other. And that's where the cash is involved. So instead of waiting for days on end, they kind of settle the trades in between. They're like the third party, I guess, so to speak. What does that have to do with Robinhood? So I think that they traded a heavy volume, like when the stock GME just skyrocketed, and they weren't able to do it without using margin.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading right now. So I'm actually on the DTCC website.
And they have it on there?
Yeah, well, it's this gentleman, what's his name here? Michael McLean. He's the managing director and general manager of Equity Clearing and DTC Settlement. So he's saying that a lot of times when you buy securities, they're on margin, which is a loan from the broker to the investor that is collateralized by the stock in their account. So I guess if the broker has to have pre-funded these resources in order for you to get your securities in real time. So obviously, I guess Robinhood just didn't have the pre-funded resources to allocate all these trades that were happening. Because GameStop was near bankruptcy because of COVID. I was under the impression that the company was done.
Yeah, that along with other stocks,
Kmart
and what's that? The one with the movie theaters.
AMC.
Yeah. The whole run up in the short squeeze that basically saved them from bankruptcy.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think Robinhood and other exchanges basically stop allowing buying the stocks because there wasn't enough cash to pay that collateral, like you said.
Yeah.
And it only allowed to sell the stock, which kind of seemed biased because of the narrative that was going on with short sellers or whatever. But that's because the seller the broker puts up the shares like collateral. I can't say that word, but not cash.
So you have a better understanding. Maybe you can explain this then. A company is public, right? Only public companies have shares of stocks, and the whole point of that is to gather. Basically, you have the public invest in your company, which gives them money to buy and manufacture whatever they need to do, provide their service, right? But these shares are these intangible things, right? I mean, they're real and so forth, that somebody is paying for them, and that money is going towards the company to help the company grow, et cetera. But these shares are actually not real things, right?
You are technically buying a portion, you're a fractional owner of a company.
Yeah.
But the thing that most don't really think about is that you're buying it through an exchange. So unless you had the physical notes, you technically are not any shape or form an owner. So unless you took a possession of the physical note, you don't really own anything.
So there is at some point along this chain, there is some kind of physical paper or whatever. Because I know, like way back in the day, obviously there was like a physical note, like kind of like you would write out an IOU and give it to someone. Because I was reading about where Japanese candlesticks came from. I thought it was really interesting that this guy started it like in way back, like hundreds of years ago, and he traded rice, and that's how he started these. A long story short, started these Japanese candlesticks. But so at some point in time, there is some sort of physical representation of this, of a share.
Yes, so there are stock certificates, and they used to get passed down physically between brokers, but now you have this DTCC, the clearinghouse, and I think their sole role is really just to help limit systematic risk.
Okay.
It just basically make the whole thing efficient.
So then based on that, how is it that these different brokerages, I guess I'm confused as to how these different brokerages can allocate these quote unquote shares to you. Like they're just a middleman, really, right? I mean, I don't, and pardon my ignorance. I'm just trying to figure this out. So if let's say you have a company that has 100,000 shares, how do the brokerages front those shares? They essentially have to purchase them first and then allow you to purchase them off of them.
Yep, I believe so.
Then are they gaining anything from that monetarily aside from holding the shares?
I think I mean, they're gaining from your fees.
But yeah. Because I would assume that if let's say Robinhood has collateral and they pre-fund, a certain number of shares, like then you basically have the average investor, the person on their phone or their computer or whatever, these independent people that are trying to buy shares, but they have to buy them through said number of middlemen, so that you have all this like hierarchy of people fighting for shares, basically, right?
I'm sorry?
I'm saying if I purchase a share of something, whatever, Tesla through Robinhood has to already have that share. That's what I'm confused on.
I believe so. And
so what if I wanted to buy every share available? I wouldn't be able to because Robinhood doesn't have them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's how it works, but don't quote me on that. We can get into that because I would like to go over how to do margin trading. Let me write that down. And that involves a little bit of knowledge in order to understand it. It's where did the actual notes go? Like, how are you able to short something without actually owning the stock? You're basically borrowing it, and how does margin work with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great forum because I have millions of questions. I have tons of questions, but obviously this is just kind of a cesspool of questions right now and topics. So I think from here, we'll be able to kind of categorize things and then do, session per session based on these hot topics. Now, obviously, I'm going to do my own research too, because I didn't even know I had these questions until we started talking. So now I'm like, oh, I need to know too, because, maybe you're full of crap. I'm just kidding. But, research is key. And this is a new world for me, even though I'm starting a little late, but I'm very, very inquisitive about a lot of this stuff because it's extremely interesting. I mean, we didn't have these digital markets, in the 30s and 40s, and it would just be, this gigantic swarm of people running around, screaming at each other, throwing paper at each other, whatever, in the stock exchange. I mean, I don't even know. I wish that I could go there and see what it's like now. I feel like it's a lot more calmer.
Yeah, there's no one there.
Well, yeah, COVID.
So I mean, I guess the short answer would be so back in the day, I don't know, maybe a decade ago, it would take I think it would take me like 3 to 5 days to actually get a clearance, I guess, from buying a stock. Like, how you have a day trader restriction thing where
Yeah.
you can't buy and sell the same day. But you can sell
Well,
the next
at least not more than 3 times. Yeah.
if you have
3
under
times in 5 business
25,000.
days.
Yeah, if you have under
Yeah.
25,000 in your account. So, but you can sell, or you can buy one day and the next day you can sell it. So there's that clearing between one day. But back in the day, you used to wait like 2 to 5 days to get that clearance, and it was very difficult to keep track of that. I remember that. It's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But the broker, so let's say Robinhood, they don't own it like personal shares, and they're not able to do any business with any of them. All they do is just exchange these notes, so to speak, but they do it through the third party, kind of like the DTCC thing.
Mm-hmm.
So just they're kind of in a go between the market and the client kind of thing. They don't actually own the shares. Does that make sense? Did I just make it more?
A little bit. Yeah, we'll dive into it more. And in terms of the PDT or the pattern day trading thing with the rule with the SEC, and you can't do more than 3 day trades or intraday trade, right?
Yeah.
Within 5 business days, which is confusing because if I buy and sell the same stock on Monday, I have 5 days I can only do 2 more in 5 days. But then if I buy and sell a different stock of whatever, if I buy and sell the same of some other stock on Wednesday, then that 5 days starts again. Right?
Yeah.
But it's still holding the first one. It's weird. And then I was also reading something else, I think on Robinhood actually, but I want to look into it more. And you probably know, I could be misspeaking, but there was something that said, unless you can day trade as much as you want, basically, as long as your earnings are not more than 6% of the trade itself, something like that. It was it seemed like a little bit of a loophole. And then I'm just spitfiring here, so my apologies on the plethora of questions and topics. But also, I follow this guy, Ross Cameron, who uses an offshore account, like some Bahamian brokerage, and uses us with less than $25,000 and is able to day trade. So there's a couple of odd things there.
Yeah, I think you're talking about like the Finra thing. So you can, so if you do 4 more times within the week, so the 5 business days of trading time, if you do trade more than that, then you are considered a pattern day trader, and your trading activities are greater than 6% of your total trading activity for that same 5-day period, would also put you under the pattern day trader.
So I'm on the SEC website right now. Finra rule, so Finra rules define a pattern day trader as any customer who executes 4 or more day trades within 5 business days. So if I make 3 day trades, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so from Monday to Friday is 5 days. But if I make another day trade on Monday, that's still within 5 business days from Tuesday.
Yes.
So that would be my third. Yeah. So it's like super tricky. But then it says, provided that the number of day trades represents more than 6% of the customer's total trades in the margin account for that same 5 business day period. What if you don't have a margin account? I don't have a margin account. I just have cash accounts.
So one way to get around this is if you do end up trading options, granted they're more risky, you can, as long as you have the equity to back it, you don't have to use margin, and you can go in and out of trades as long as you have cash to back it. So what I mean is that if you have, let's say, $1,000 in your entire portfolio of cash, and each option costs, obviously depends on many factors, but each one's gonna cost you $100. Never mind fees or whatever. So if you go through one option trade, it'll tell you that you have $900 in settled cash. So that means you can trade 9 more times.
Okay.
So it's almost like you give yourself an allowance in that form. But that's one way that you can get in and out of a trade, is if you did options. You can day trade options.
Yeah, because options, you don't actually yet own. You don't own anything really, unless the time runs out, right? And then you have to purchase.
Yeah,
I'm still learning about options.
Yeah, it's a very mild. So the one thing that they tell you is that you own 100 shares per option, but you don't really own it until you trade it to the actual stock.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It's an option. Yeah, no, it's an option. You have the option to buy it once that time runs out.
Right. So
you don't have the option, but.
So the one thing I'm not 100% clear on is how does that actually, granted you can use it to move the market, but does it actually move the market, because you're not actually purchasing 100 shares?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's like block. You're like renting the movie. You can watch the movie, but you don't own it. But if you don't return the movie, then you have to buy it.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
You remember Blockbuster?
Yep. Showing your age.
Oh boy. Yeah. But the thing that I'm not understanding either is that all this day trading, this SEC files / day trading, that PDF, it's only talking about margin, and a lot of people don't use margin. I'm confused. I guess I'm confused on the term margin right now, because when I think of margin, I think of like, oh, I have $200, whatever. I have $200 in my account, but I have margin, so I can, tenfold that amount and trade with that on massive risk.
Yeah, so we can look more into this. But I think it has, so it's all under Finra rules. So you have to have at least 25,000 in your account, and can only trade in margin accounts. Interesting.
So this 6%, when it says represents more than 6% of the customer's total trades. So the total trade. So it doesn't matter how much money I have in my account. It's how much I'm trading with, or is that gains? Is it just the amount of money I'm putting into securities?
So if your total trading activity, so if you traded during the week, if you traded, I don't know, $100, interesting. Yeah, that's a good question.
Like if I day trade a penny stock, it's maybe 68 cents, and I buy 10 shares, I spend $6.80, but really I'm the whole week I'm trading like $2,000 worth of stock. So technically I could day trade that stock as much as I want. Or does it compound? I mean, it doesn't really seem clear. And this SEC website has a 2-page PDF on this. They don't really have. I mean, maybe they want to keep it kind of gray so that they can penalize as they see fit. Because it even says here that this is a minimum requirement and that brokerages can kind of set their own rules.
Yeah, it's almost like a probable cause, so to speak, because it does tell you it's up to kind of the discretion of your brokerage.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
strange. And again, like, where did they come up with this $25,000 number? It's so weird. They just kind of like make up these numbers, or there's got to be some history to that. And when did that happen?
What's that?
And when did day trading get regulated like this? There's a lot for me to understand on this topic.
Those are all good questions, though.
2001.
There you go.
The FINRA initially approved the PDT rule in 2001 to protect investors from losing money. Oh, so it's to protect me. Thanks. What if I want a day trade?
So
you should sign a waiver or something.
Yeah, it's like they're babying you. So again, this is all down to margin trading. It's kind of interesting. Brokerage. So here's some exceptions. A long security position held overnight and sold the next day prior to a new purchase of the same security. Or a short security position held overnight and purchased the next day prior to any new sell of the same security.
Right. So I can swing trade Tesla. I could buy Tesla Monday, sell it Tuesday, and then buy it again Tuesday, and it doesn't count as a day trade.
Right. But I think it may count as a wash trade.
A what?
A wash trade.
I never heard of that.
Let me look it up.
Does that count in reverse, though? Can I short Tesla and then?
Yeah, I think you can short it too. Yeah, so wash trade is you sell and buy the same stock, I guess, in the same day. Yeah, I'm not sure.
And I'm assuming that only applies to our market. Like, I could buy securities in the Chinese stock exchange and sell them in the same day. I don't know.
What do you mean, like the U.S. market? What's the foreign one?
Yeah.
A lot of these things are to the discretion of the broker. Like what I noticed that some of the, I guess, quote unquote rules and for example, Fidelity don't apply to E-Trade and vice versa. But even though you bought something, let's say on Monday, you sold Tuesday, but then you rebought it at a different price, it creates a watch sell under Fidelity. I'm not sure how they derived that to be a wash sell. They put it down as a wash sell because you traded the same security technically on the same day by selling and buying the same security. And then it just averages the cost, and under your trades, it appears as a wash trade with the average cost. I moved out of Fidelity because of that.
Yeah. Here's another interesting subject. So what if I buy 100 shares of stock A today? If I buy 100 shares of stock A on Monday and then put out a call for it, create an option out of it, and I sell that wouldn't count, right? Because I'm technically not selling the shares, selling the option to buy the shares. We're just trying to find loopholes. I wanted to be a lawyer at one point in time.
And if anyone who's listening knows the answers to these, just please comment it. We are curious. Yeah. We're all here to learn as well. Do we have anything else we want to talk about right now? And on the whole mortgage forbearance thing. So you're not going to see foreclosures until March 31st.
Oh, great.
So it's kind of interesting the timing because we'll get into the markets, but it looks like we may see a pullback maybe in March and June, into June.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where you get that I guess I'll call it an opinion,
Yeah.
or where you get that. Well, I'm always interested to see how you come to these conclusions, or whatever you want to call them. Predictions. Sorry, there's the word I was looking for. Because to me,
Well, no predictions. These are, and we'll get into it. So trading is not. I don't see it as making predictions. Just making plays based on high probability.
okay, yeah.
Because I can't tell the future.
Statistical observations.
There you go. There you go. All right. So on that note, do you want to get into charts?
Yeah. Please take it over.